My name is Bud Shaw. I'm a solution architect with GSI. Just briefly about me, I've been working with JD Edwards since 1999, so coming up on 24 years. And I'm a functional guy, so I really go across almost all the mod functional areas within JDE. But by no means am I a developer or a programmer. So these things that we're going to go into today, like being able to create a workflow on the glass, if you will, not using what we finally call the FAT client or the Windows client, are near and dear to my heart. So I don't have to go in and be like a developer doing things within JD Edwards. I can do it all in a low code, no code solution using Orchestrator Studio and Workflow Studio, and that's what we've done here. This is really meant to highlight the 9271 tools release of JD Edwards. In 926, the release 22 release of JD Edwards, Workflow Studio got put into the Orchestrator Studio, and it was nice. You could modify existing workflows. And then it evolved into, I think it was 9263, where you could create a new workflow from scratch. But the issue that I found, being a functional person, was in order to walk a workflow all the way through, like send something out for approval, and once it's approved, being able to update the data in JD Edwards required a business function to be written for the Workflow Studio. But with the 9271 release, they included the capability to call an orchestration from the workflow itself, which is nice because then once the workflow goes through, and you'll see in my example here, they go through the approval process, then the workflow can call an orchestration to actually update the data in JDE. So hence doing this all on the glass, if you will, as a web client. So that's really what this one was meant to do. And well, one of my associates came up, he had to deal with this. Many, and I've seen it in the past too, many companies that create new items have to involve multiple people from within the organization to update the product information product information of the item master. Some people have to add the pricing. Some people from procurement have to do their thing. Planning may have to do their thing. Engineering may have to do, they're adding bills of materials and things like that. So JD Edwards didn't really meet that need because there was no real workflow to walk a newly created item to those different folks, to the point where I've even seen many companies go off and bolt into a product information management, solution to handle these workflows. So what we did here, using these new features in JDE, a low code, no code solution, is we've created a workflow from scratch that will send and my demo has only got 3 groups, but certainly I think you'll see could be more. The original, this example was originally built as a modification for a customer of ours that developers got and went to 6 different groups, but the cost of that modification was well over $30,000 in programmer effort. And then it's a programming modification to JDE. Hence, it's not easily upgraded. You'll have to retrofit it and things like that. But this solution doesn't require that, and that's why we went down this road to show you this. There is no existing workflow in JDE. This is the processing options for the item master P4101, and the workflow, you can see it's all listed as obsolete. There are no workflows that to invoke when you add a new item. So do you have options what might you do to satisfy that need within your organization. Of course, create a customization for this scenario. I talked about that one customer of ours that spent quite a bit of money in customizing it. You could rely on manual intervention. That's not really a good solution, passing a piece of paper around. But in this solution, you can use workflow to notify and gain acceptance, for the proper people to populate their required fields, on the item master, and it automates the walkthrough from one group to the next group to the next group, and then when it's done, we actually have calls a second orchestration notification to notify anybody who wants to know that there's a new item ready to be used. Okay, so that's what this workflow option is all about. It starts from a logical extension, and you can see here, this logical extension is just reading through the item master, the branch plant, right, in F4102 that says if there's a new item out there, and in our scenario, we set the stock code to a number 4, which is not a normal. It's not S for stock or P for purchase or whatever. And what this does is if it finds that new item out there with the stock status of 4, then it triggers, it fetches the single item master and then starts the workflow. This is from the logical extension calling the workflow in the workflow studio. And then of course this loops on through because you may have more than one new items added depending on who does it. So this is the triggering using a logical extension. I did it and will run it just running it on a scheduler, if you will, but certainly could be launched from a E1 application. In other words, when somebody clicks OK, that they've added a new item record, it could launch this directly and pass variables to it. But this one I just set on a schedule every so often, run and go ahead and create the workflow and send it on. So this logical extension called AGMS new item, that's AGMS, my initials, just so that I could separate it from other things we're working on in our lab. And it calls this workflow AGMS new item workflow. So the new item workflow, this is the workflow studio and what it looks like. So it starts, and then I've got 3 different groups that we send it through. There's an info message and an action message. Info message to let somebody know there's a new item been added and their input's going to be expected, so they can go and work on the item record. It actually passes the link to the application in it, and then once they do that, then they'll respond to the action message, which is to approve the record, and have they done it. Once that one gets done, then it moves on to the next user to do the same thing, and then to the third user, and then when it's done, here is the orchestration to actually update the item master. This I'm going to show you when we get into it. We're going to add another orchestration for the notification. So that's kind of what that's the basics of what this workflow and logical extension is all about. So let's, as I like to do, I like to show stuff and go get into live software. So let's go see it live. So I'm going to start here. Let me log into my Orchestrator Studio. And what I'll do to set the stage for this, because this is using the foundation of JDE standard workflow features, right? So one of the standard workflow features I took advantage of, I'm going to log into my JDE system here. One of the standard workflow features is to delegate an address book to a particular user. So for this flow, I had 3 different groups, and I set an address book up for each group. I had the engineering, procurement, and customer service. So then when, when somebody goes on vacation, so this one, engineering, is Paul Ingram. He's going to get the workflow first, but then it's going to go to procurement, then it's going to go to customer service. Obviously, to add more users, you could add more more address books, and then do the delegation. So the first one is Paul Ingram, second one is Bud Shaw, third one is Jason Fuentes for customer service. So, and the beauty of taking this advantage is that this is a standard workflow delegation in JDE, so that when somebody goes on vacation or somebody leaves a company, you can just go ahead and reassign that role to a new user. You can also do things like, have multiple users notified, and as an address book architecture, but we just kept it simple for this. So this is the three users that are going to walk through this workflow example, right? So okay. So in my JDE, so then the basic trigger for it, as I talked about, is new items, right? So I have a new item, and here is the stocking type. As I said, we just use something unique, stocking type 4. And this is a great grill grate. That's a new item that's been added into JDE. And this is what this one's going to trigger our workflow example in it. And it means this was just created within JDE, right? You could use any code you want. And at the end of this, the workflow is going to call the orchestration to actually and update the stocking type from a 4 to I think it goes to a P or an S, which means it's stocked, right? So it's not a unique line type. Yeah, it's going to be I think it goes to S for a stock type, right? That's what the orchestration is going to do with it, right? So let's go take a look at the things that we're going to take advantage of. So the first thing we're going to do is we've got two pieces that are being taken advantage of in here. We've got the logic extension, and this is the one we'll use to trigger. Here's my AGMS new item. And so here's an example. I can maximize this so you can see it a little better. So the first thing, we're just doing some assignment blocks. So this is where we're assigning the address books for the 3 people. Again, if you have more people that, you have 4 or 5 or 6 different groups that need to have input, you can add those people in, address books, and then loop it through and assign those into the workflow. This is just walking through the select. So it's looking at the 4102, the item branch, and saying if the stocking type equals my new stocking type, that's my number 4. So if I wanted to use a different one, we could do that in the assignment block and change it. And it says it starts with that, and then it's going to loop through and do a fetch next. So this is looping through the item branch areas and say the cost center branch plan, new item number, a stocking type, and then it says while we're successfully looping through those records and the stocking type we're finding in each record is a new item, we're going to fetch the new one because I wanted to get a description to pass on to the users of the item, not just the item number, and then it's going to start the workflow. This is the workflow that is going to launch, where it's going to pass the variables from the logic extension into the workflow. There's all workflows in JDE have 2 data structures that are required: a key data structure and an additional data structure. They're just usually used, like in this case, the key is who's going to get the workflow message, and then the additional would be additional information that you want to map into it. So in this one, just loops on through in case there's more records to go in here. So this is going to launch that new item workflow called AGMS new item. We created the workflow here in the Workflow Studio. And I just to let you know, you can do the whole thing. I've got 2 here. So here's my active live working workflow. You'll see if you're using with workflow, you have an active workflow. So this one is all done. This is the start, sends the info, sends the notification, the approval, blah, blah, it loops through all 3 users, then calls the orchestration to update the item master and branch, and then launches a notification to let anybody who wants to subscribe to that notification know that there's new item has been created. Working with these workflows in the workflow studio, and the even in your release now, just kind of the only kind of, to me, which I think will be fixed pretty soon, or enhanced pretty soon, is when you create your data structures and you create them in the web OMW P98220W in JDE. You then have to do a little package update to get those data structures into the I forgot what it's into the into the system, so that the workflow can pick it up. That's supposed to be changed, where we won't have to do that in the near future. But everything else, and even that one, was still done using the web. Never went into a fat client, if you will, to do this. So what I thought I would do, so that you can see how easy it is to work with these workflows. This one is, I call it AGMS item WIP work in process. As you can see, I don't have the orchestration in here for notification. So these on the left are your different functions that you can perform. You can add an info message, action message, an orchestration. We don't need to do low business function anymore, because we can do an orchestration. So you'll just simply drag and drop your function in there, right? So there's the orchestration, and then you're going to go in and define what that is, right? You'll use a little pencil here to define it. So I'm going to go into orchestration, and this one, as I said, we already have the orchestration to update it, but I want to do a notification. So I'm going to go in and do a search on a notification. Here is the notification that's letting somebody know that it's ready to use. Once you do that, you're mapping the data structures from the workflow into them. So here's what we're going to select in the item description. What field do we want to map in here? There's the item description, the item number. We can do the short item number. I think we'll just use a short item number that's more unique. And then the item branch plant, which is the data structure called cost center. So you're now moving those in here. We can tell it to fire and forget, because we're just sending a notification out along with it. And at that point, we have now enhanced our orchestration to include that. We can give it rename it and say notify users, anyone who's notify anyone who's signed into it, right? So this is the orchestration to update. So you're working with these workflows. Once you do that, you can validate it. Then you can release your reservation of it and then activate it, which is what you would do. So in my live example, the one I've already got called from you can see this is an active workflow, right? And it's all complete in its scenario in here. So even when you look at these, I should go back to show you that one real quickly. The message is something you define in your JDE web interface, and I can even show you that there's a underneath your definition. It's like a data dictionary structure, and there you can just define what that is, because when we look at this info message, right, you can see here it's sending an informational message. A new item has been created. Who's it going to? Passing the item number into it. I think we'd pass a description. We could pass a description. We just pass the item number into it. And then here is the message that you want to go to that user, that this is LM 55. So that means that it was a custom user defined message, right? Your item is needed, and the variables that get passed into it that gets sent to the users through the workflow. So everything complete, done within the workflow studio and the web interface, the web interface. Okay, so let's go back to our our logical extension. Right? Let me pause for a second. I don't see any Q&A or chats. Brooke, anything going on? Everything quiet out there?
Yep, nothing yet.
Okay, so I showed you already the item record, the great whatever, that has stocking type 4 set to it. And like I said, we can just run this one, or maybe put it into a scheduler for every so often that you would want to do it. And we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to test run it, right? So you can see it's run through it. It's returned some variables. Here is the 3 users that are going to get notified, the item number, and the item description. So it's gone ahead and done its thing. Now, if you remember back to our example here, we haven't changed anything in here, but in our user can go into they can go into their work center. A couple ways to get into it. I don't know if you're familiar with this. You can get into the work center right off of the. I did this wrong here. Hang on a second. Oh, message center. The message center, you can see, so here is the work center, or it could be the notification list, which will come in later on. What I did is I had I didn't point it out, but you can see here, the workflow has triggered 2 messages to the work center. I only do this way because I don't have an email server hooked up into our lab. Certainly if you did, this would come in an email, which would, make a lot more sense. It could also have the notification subscribe to and send a message out into the phone or a text or something. But so the first one in here is one is to a new item has been created for, and their input is needed, right? So they will click on that. They'll click on item branch. It'll take it right into the item branch record, and then they can complete their piece of it. So this is the engineering group. He probably would go into it. He would set up his bill of materials, or set up a unit of measures, or whatever his responsibility is to do that. Once he reviews that, then he'll come back, or he or she will come back, and they will then approve that they've done their update to the information. So workflow approval is just a simple workflow approval. They can accept it. Of course, if it rejects it, the message can come back to the person who created it, letting them know that it's been rejected. It's not ready to do. But generally, I've made my changes. I'm the engineering individual. We're going to go ahead and accept it. So now once that's been accepted, right, it will not show up in his message anymore. And if you remember back to our workflow delegation, the next user will be Bud Shaw, right? So Bud Shaw is I'm gonna log out and log in as me, right? And now that engineering has approved their update, Bud Shaw is going to go and look at his message center. Or we could, the older, more old-fashioned way, if you will, is to go to the work center, right? I can do that as well. It doesn't matter. And like I said, generally, I mean, you probably wouldn't do it this way. You'll do it, using emails, right? So this is now the new item was created, right? And his input is needed, so it's complete and then approved. So they will go in just like the other individual, go in and work with the item branch, maintain their updates to it, and then they'll go in and they'll do their approval, right? So this is going to take them into workflow approval. So then that user has done his thing, and then the last one for and you can see why I did this just 3, so we can get this completed in a reasonable amount of time, was the customer service, which was user GMS. And user GMS can go into their work center or to their work center through the from the login up in the message center. And now they've been notified that a new item was created and their input is required, right? Item great, I think it was great. This, I've got two of them out here. So, and they're going to go ahead and approve that. And they've gone ahead and approved it. Now, based on those three, anyone who is subscribed to the notification that we added, including our first user, is going to get a notification. And you see up here in the bell, a new item is ready for use. Just done today. New item, great grill grate for WSM branch 18 Grand B is ready for use. So that's anyone who subscribes to that notification can be informed of that, you know. So that's the flow. Now, and remember, I talked about a couple of things. I talked about using this workflow delegation, but don't forget, I mean, this is standard workflow function in JDE. You can always go look at your process task monitor and see what's going on. So here is this particular workflow that we created, and it's out here. You can see there's the one that was done today. It was who it walked through, when it started, when each person did their step, because you may have a scenario where it's stuck, right, or somebody's not responding, and you might want to add an escalation in there, which you can do through the workflow studio, and have an escalation to, if somebody hasn't responded within a certain amount of time, send another message or forward it on to somebody else. So you can always capture and track, what's going on with the workflow, and how long is it taking somebody to do their job and approve it. But this is these are all standard functions within JDE that you can take advantage of. Here is the workflow message that we defined in here, and it was I think it was LM55. Yeah, let's see here, 40. Here's the workflow, the message that we defined in here. This is where it was set up. There's the variables that we passed into it, and all done within the web. And again, even the data structure you can do within the web OMW in JDE, and design it, create it, design it, and everything else like that. So we can go in here and see, here is we just look up at the data structures. And here's the two data structures that were used. You can go into it, check it out, design it, do whatever you need to do, and work within it to define what those data structures are. So everything done within the web. This the workflow is really not a true UDO, but it is still not going to be affected by an upgrade. Everything else in here is a low code, everything is a low code, no code solution to this problem. So that when you upgrade, you won't have to retrofit anything. Everything will just come forward into the solution. So that is what I had here. I actually knocked that out pretty efficiently. So any questions?
It doesn't look like it right now.
Like I said, just realize there's no application customization been done. It doesn't need to be retrofitted, easily enhanced or changed using the JDE tools that you just saw me use. And you can take advantage of this. And we're around. Reach out to me for any questions, or if you're not familiar with Orchestrator and Workflow Studio and stuff like that, we certainly have a group, and we can help guide you through that, and or give you training. If you need to upgrade to take advantage of the most recent tools, the 9271, well, it's actually 9272 and 9273 now, but 9271 is the one I use to build this in. We're happy to help you out with that. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Brooke.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bud.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. I'm gonna switch over to share my screen if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
And just share a couple of follow-up items with you guys, and then it also gives you a little bit of time to input any questions that maybe you are thinking of that might have gotten brought up now. Mm-hmm. So we provide extensive free educational resources, which includes our webcasts, our newsletter, our YouTube channel, our conferences and events, and then we also offer online our virtual workshops right now. So we have our upcoming upgrade workshop, which is on June 15th. Bud leads that as well, which is really great. There is limited seating. So if you go out to our website, you can click on resources and then go to conferences and events, and then you'll see it over there and you can sign up there. You can also follow us on social media. All of our handles are currently listed on the screen. We share all of our industry insights, our event updates, and so much more. I also put a link out there for a survey. So if you would like to fill out a survey, it's an opportunity for you to let us know how we're doing and if there's any other type of content you'd like to see, and then also an opportunity to win a $25 Amazon gift card. So you can put the link in the chat, or then also when you log off, it'll pop up right away, and then you can just click on that link. So let's check to see if there's any.
And feel free to reach out with any questions. Bud.shaw, it's pretty easy email at getgsi.com. There you go. There's even my phone number. Reach out for any questions or whatever. You have other members of your organization are interested in this. You can share the recording, and or reach out to me, and we can walk it through and discuss with them. So available for all those kind of things.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bud. And thank you so much, everyone, for attending today. We hope that you have a great week. And like Bud said, reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you so much, Bud.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Have a great day.
Bye.